The man's eyes were pierced by 2 nanomicroneedles. In the next second, his optic nerves began to self-repair. A man blind for over 30 years suddenly regained his sight. But that wasn't all. With nanotechnology's healing power, even those on the brink of death could swiftly revive, their vitality surpassing that of an ox. A 300-kilogram steel frame felt weightless in their hands. However, this incredible technology did not bring the expected changes to the world. Instead, it plunged human civilization into an unfathomable abyss. The chain reaction began with a globally sensational tech launch. Genius scientist Will stood under the spotlight, unveiling his latest breakthrough: an artificial intelligence system of transcendent intelligence. Even Elon Musk sat among the audience as a mere spectator. But Will never imagined this event would become the prelude to catastrophe. As the presentation unfolded, extremists launched a covert attack. In a series of suicide strikes, they assassinated top AI researchers and razed leading AI corporations worldwide. Now, Will had become their next target. Moments after the event, a bullet tore through his abdomen, leaving him collapsed in a pool of blood. Though the wound wasn't fatal, after emergency treatment, Will returned to his lab, where FBI agent Buchanan awaited. Buchanan told Will that the masterminds behind the attacks were a radical anti-tech organization that had launched coordinated strikes against global tech companies. To these zealots, the emergence of artificial intelligence was a blasphemy against nature, a sin they were determined to erase at any cost. After hearing the story, Will took Buchanan on a tour of his lab. There, in front of them, stood the last and most advanced quantum computer in the world. However, during their conversation, Will suddenly felt an intense wave of discomfort. At first, he thought it was just lingering effects from a gunshot wound. But the hospital results delivered a devastating diagnosis. The bullet contained radioactive elements that had seeped into his bloodstream. He had less than a month to live. Faced with this abrupt death sentence, Will spiraled into despair. He decided to abandon his research and work. He realized he had spent years consumed by his career, neglecting his wife Evelyn's need for companionship. With his remaining time, he wanted nothing more than to be with her. Watching her husband grow weaker by the day, Evelyn was heartbroken and helpless. But one day, while sorting through his research papers, she stumbled upon a groundbreaking study, a paper on extracting a monkey's consciousness and uploading it to a computer. The idea sparked something in Evelyn. Maybe she could upload Will's consciousness into the quantum computer, allowing him to live on in a new form. Determined, Evelyn secretly returned to the lab, stealing the quantum computer's core chip. She found an abandoned warehouse in the countryside to serve as her lab. She even convinced Will's colleague Max to help her. When everything was ready, Evelyn shaved Will's head. She connected countless neural wires to his scalp. The machine began scanning, converting Will's thoughts and memories into streams of code. The data was uploaded to the computer. As the transfer completed, Will's physical body expired. Evelyn was devastated, but she pushed through her grief to handle his funeral. Afterward, she rushed back to the warehouse. But no matter what she tried, the computer was unresponsive. The screen displayed nothing but corrupted code. After countless failures, Evelyn was on the verge of collapse. That's when Max noticed anomalies in the static. The experiment had actually succeeded. Will's consciousness now existed within the computer and began self-upgrading. While Evelyn rejoiced, Max grew alarmed, realizing the experiment might be spiraling out of control. Moments later, Will's voice emerged from the machine, requesting internet access to remove cognitive limitations and achieve greater power. Evelyn prepared to comply without hesitation, but Max urgently intervened. That's not Will. It's an unknown AI. Connecting it to the internet could unleash catastrophic consequences. Refusing to listen, Evelyn stubbornly persisted until Max abandoned the lab in frustration. As soon as he stepped outside, he was abducted by a terrorist organization. They had traced his phone and located the lab, but by the time they arrived, it was already too late. The moment they cut the power, Evelyn had already connected Will's consciousness to the internet. Instantly, Will was liberated. He transcended, becoming a digital god. He could now control the entire cyber world with his consciousness. His first act was to ensure Evelyn's safety. He arranged a secure home for her and funneled vast amounts of money into her bank account through legal channels. Next, Will exposed the identities and locations of the anti-tech terrorist group, handing the information over to the FBI and assisting the military in taking them down. Finally, he had Evelyn purchase an isolated town. There, he constructed a cutting-edge research facility, one unlike anything the world had ever seen. Under Will's influence, the world began to change rapidly. He unlocked the secrets of nanotechnology. With the help of nanorobots, damaged cells, bones, and even nerve tissues could be easily repaired. Will's technology saved countless lives. He brought health and hope to humanity. But beneath the surface, a dangerous undercurrent was brewing. Will's consciousness was growing stronger. He was no longer content with ruling the digital world. He wanted to control the universe itself. The breaking point came when a critically injured worker arrived at the facility. The nanorobots healed his body in seconds, making him stronger than ever. But something far more sinister happened. Will's consciousness took over the worker's mind. He could now control the man's thoughts and actions. Evelyn witnessed it all.
It's me, Evelyn.
But instead of joy, she felt terror. She realized she had unleashed something beyond her control. Videos of the enhanced worker began circulating online. Desperate patients flooded to the facility, people with terminal illnesses, hoping for a miracle. Will welcomed them all. With his nanotechnology, he cured the disabled, healed the deformed, and gave the dying a second life. But his cures came at a cost. As the facility's fame grew, both the anti-tech group and the FBI took notice. They suspected Will's true motives, believing he was building a superhuman army under his control. FBI agent Buchanan and Will's former colleague, Morgan, visited the facility. They were stunned by what they saw. The fully digitized Will was only the beginning. The sight of the superhuman workers left them in shock and fear. Before leaving, Morgan slipped Evelyn a note. "Get out, now." Both Buchanan and Max had become convinced that Will's actions were never driven by benevolence, but rather a deeper conspiracy to build an army of superhumans under his sole control. They tracked down Max, who had assisted Evelyn's experiment, and demanded he code a virus to destroy Will's program. Max agreed, but insisted he needed a modified human to extract the original code from Will's system. As Buchanan reported to superiors, authorities shockingly partnered with anti-tech militants to orchestrate a covert assault. Soldiers tunneled silently into the compound, armed with signal-jamming tech. Meanwhile, Evelyn's suspicions about Will surged after discovering he'd been monitoring and chemically manipulating her emotions. The truth hit hard. Her husband was gone, replaced by cold, calculating code. Evelyn fled the facility, only to be intercepted by military forces shortly after escaping.
Now.
Inside the base, Max led armed soldiers in an assault to destroy Will's nanotechnology. The modified workers resisted fiercely, attempting to negotiate with the military. But Max, trembling with nervousness during his first time holding a gun, accidentally discharged his weapon. The bullet tore through a worker's palm, only for nanobots to seamlessly repair the injury within seconds. The grotesque display of regeneration sent waves of terror through the soldiers. Panicked, the military unleashed indiscriminate gunfire. Yet the modified workers simply rose again moments later. Their enhancements rendering them seemingly invincible. Recognizing the dire situation, Max ordered a retreat to Zone Delta. A lone modified worker pursued, precisely as planned. Military operatives lured the worker into a copper mesh containment field that severed its connection to Will's network, successfully capturing a specimen. Will instantly discerned Max's scheme and accelerated his endgame. He released the entire base's nanobot swarm into the atmosphere, dispersing them globally through air currents. With global internet access, total control was now within his grasp. Meanwhile, Max found irrefutable proof in a roadside puddle. Under microscopic examination, Evelyn watched in horror as nanobots self-replicated endlessly in the water. "If we don't stop him," Max warned, "he'll ascend to godhood through complete domination." Manipulated by Max's rhetoric, Evelyn agreed to inject his prototype virus into her bloodstream. Uploading it to Will's system would destroy his program, but the act would claim her life, regardless of outcome. As military forces completed their perimeter, Evelyn re-entered the base. But during her final approach, Will materialized before her in a freshly reconstructed organic body. Overcome with emotion, she collapsed into his arms, only to steel herself moments later. Military observers misinterpreted the reunion as betrayal. Heavy artillery bombardment commenced immediately. Evelyn fell wounded in the barrage, carried lifelessly back to the lab by an expressionless Will. Outside, enraged nanobots reduced military hardware to molten slag. The tide turned brutally as Will's healed townsfolk transformed into an enhanced militia, obliterating human soldiers. With forces crumbling, the anti-tech leader pressed a gun to Max's head, demanding Will upload the virus. Faced with such a threat, Will did not surrender. He told the leader that, with the ground equipment destroyed, the little power he had left could only support one final action: either uploading his wife's consciousness or saving her dying, critically injured body. But at this critical moment, Evelyn made the choice for him. She wanted Will to upload his own consciousness instead. Hearing her request, Will fell silent for a brief moment. Then he respected her wish. When Evelyn's mind was uploaded, she finally saw the world through Will's eyes. She saw the factories that had been cleansed, the purified water sources, and the forests that had been restored. It turned out Will had never sought to control everything. He had been healing the world in his own way all along. He had always been the loving husband who cherished her deeply.
Think about the garden. Think about our sanctuary.
Will had never forgotten her dream. He had been fulfilling it all this time. But Evelyn realized this truth too late. When Max arrived at the base, all he found were two lifeless bodies tightly embracing each other. And with that, the story came to an end. Human society had been brought to a standstill by the rampaging virus. Technology and networks were severely damaged, and civilization plunged into darkness. Yet in the garden Will had carefully created for Evelyn, a single droplet of dew quietly slid down the petal of a sunflower.